Every one of these 7 plants is already growing somewhere on the property. Most people pull them, bag them, and pay for trash pickup. Purslane carries more plant-based omega-3 than spinach. Stinging nettle runs protein levels close to alfalfa hay. The only requirement is knowing which 7 to leave alone and how to harvest them correctly. Weed 1. Purslane. Purslane is a low, fleshy, reddish-stemmed plant that spreads flat across disturbed soil, garden beds, gravel edges, anywhere the ground has been turned. Most gardeners treat it as a nuisance weed because it is nearly impossible to kill by pulling. Any stem segment left in contact with soil can reroot. That same toughness is what makes it valuable. Purslane carries more alpha-linolenic acid, a plant-based omega-3 fatty acid, than almost any other leafy green commonly available. More than spinach, more than most lettuce varieties. For a laying flock, that translates into eggs with a documented shift toward higher omega-3 content, when purslane makes up a regular part of the diet. Protein content is modest on a fresh weight basis, but the plant is mostly water and minerals rather than bulk fiber, which means birds eat it readily and in volume. It grows fastest in hot, dry conditions through mid to late summer, exactly the window when other green forage is often scarce. The honest limitation: purslane is an annual that needs disturbed soil to establish. A flock on permanent sod will not find it on its own. The fix is simple. Turn over a small patch of bare soil near the run each spring, or let it volunteer in an unused garden bed, and it returns every year without reseeding. Weed 2. Dandelion. Dandelion needs no introduction and no identification guide. It is the single most recognizable weed in North America, and every part of it is edible to a flock. Leaves, flowers, stems, and root all carry nutritional value, with the leaves running roughly 2.5 to 3 grams of protein per 100 grams fresh, along with meaningful levels of vitamin A, vitamin K, and calcium. Dandelion is also the most reliable weed on this list for season length. It is typically the first edible green available in early spring, and one of the last still standing after a light frost in fall, which makes it a bridge crop during the 2 seasons when forage is thinnest. Birds will eat the leaves and flowers directly off the plant if allowed to free range over a lawn, and the root, while tougher and more bitter, can be dug, chopped, and added to a feed mix without further preparation. The only caution worth noting: lawns treated with herbicide are not a source. A dandelion patch pulled from treated turf carries whatever was sprayed on it, and that risk does not disappear because the plant looks healthy. Untreated lawn, garden margins, or field edges only. Weed 3. Lamb's quarters. Lamb's quarters, sometimes called wild spinach, is one of the highest protein common weeds available to a backyard flock. Documented at roughly 4 grams of protein per 100 grams fresh, ahead of dandelion and most cultivated lettuce. It grows upright, 1 to several feet tall, with diamond-shaped leaves that carry a light gray-green, almost dusty coating on the underside. That dusty look is the single easiest identification marker. It is an aggressive self-seeder. One season of letting a patch go to seed in an unused garden corner produces enough volunteer plants the following year to supply a small flock through most of the summer without any additional planting. The honest caution with this plant is not the plant itself, it is what grows next to it. Lamb's quarters often shares disturbed soil with pokeweed, a genuinely toxic plant with a similar growth habit in its early stages. The two look different once mature. Pokeweed develops thick reddish-purple stems and dark berries that lamb's quarters never produces, but a beginner harvesting young plants needs to be confident in the identification before pulling anything for the flock. When in doubt, leave the patch and wait for clearer growth stages. Weed 4. Broadleaf plantain. Broadleaf plantain is the wide, ribbed leaf weed that grows flat in compacted soil. Driveways, footpaths, anywhere foot traffic has packed the ground too hard for most other plants. It is one of the toughest, most drought-tolerant plants on this list, and one of the easiest to identify, with parallel veins running the length of each leaf, and no real toxic look-alike in North America. Nutritionally, it runs more modest than lamb's quarters or dandelion, but it makes up for that with availability. Plantain tolerates foot traffic, mowing, and poor soil better than almost anything else on this list, which means it is often present in spaces where nothing else grows. Exactly the marginal ground around a coop or run that gets walked flat within weeks of construction. Birds will peck at the leaves directly if given access, and the plant regrows from the base after grazing rather than dying back, which makes it one of the few entries here that can handle repeated, ongoing foraging pressure from a flock without needing a rest period. Weed 5. Chickweed. Chickweed earned its name honestly. It is one of the most consistently preferred forage plants for poultry of anything on this list, and flocks will seek it out over almost any other green when given the choice. It grows low and sprawling, with small white star-shaped flowers and paired oval leaves, and it thrives in cool weather that shuts down most other forage options. That cool season preference is what makes chickweed valuable, rather than redundant with the other 6 entries here. It germinates in fall, survives light frost, and often provides green forage through winter, in milder climates, or under row cover in colder ones. Exactly the window when purslane and lamb's quarters have already died back for the season. Nutritionally, it runs comparable to dandelion, with meaningful protein and vitamin content for a low-growing annual, and it self-seeds reliably in disturbed soil and garden margins without any planting required. The one practical limit: chickweed does not tolerate summer heat well in most regions and dies back once temperatures climb consistently above 80 degrees. It is a spring and fall plant on this list, not a summer one, which is exactly why it pairs well with purslane rather than competing with it. Weed 6. Stinging nettle. Stinging nettle is the highest protein plant on this list, by a wide margin. Crude protein on a dry matter basis runs 25 to 30%, comparable to high-quality alfalfa hay, and traditional poultry keepers use dried or cooked nettle specifically as a laying tonic, long before commercial layer feed existed. It is also the one entry here that requires real handling caution. The fine hairs covering the stem and leaf underside cause a genuine skin irritation on contact, and that applies to harvesting it, not to feeding it. Gloves and long sleeves are not optional when cutting nettle. Bare hand harvesting is the single most common mistake people make with this plant, and it is an entirely avoidable one. Once harvested, the sting deactivates with heat or drying. Wilting the cut nettle for a day, drying it fully for storage, or briefly steaming it before feeding all neutralize the hairs completely. Chickens can then eat it without any issue, the same way they handle any other chopped green. Feeding it fresh and unwilted is not dangerous to the birds. They generally avoid pecking at anything that stings them on contact. But it does mean the plant goes uneaten, and the protein goes to waste. Stinging nettle grows in moist, nitrogen-rich soil, often near old barn sites, compost areas, or stream edges, and it is a perennial. Once established, the same patch returns and expands every year without replanting. A modest patch, dried and stored through the growing season, can supply a meaningful protein supplement through the months when fresh forage is otherwise limited. The honest trade-off: of the 7 plants here, nettle requires the most preparation labor relative to the others. It is worth that labor for the protein density. It is not a plant to harvest carelessly. Weed 7. Clover white and red clover are nitrogen-fixing legumes that show up in nearly every lawn and pasture in the country, typically tolerated rather than actively maintained, and they carry crude protein levels of roughly 15 to 20% on a dry matter basis, closer to alfalfa than to most of the other plants on this list. Beyond the direct nutrition, clover does something none of the other 6 weeds do on its own. It draws insects. A clover patch left to flower attracts pollinators and a steady population of small insects that a foraging flock will work through alongside the plant itself, adding a protein source that does not show up in any forage analysis of the clover itself. Trainally tolerates mowing and light grazing pressure better than most legumes, regrowing from a low crown rather than needing to reseed each year, which makes it one of the more durable entries on this list, under repeated flock pressure. A flock rotated across a clover-heavy paddock will graze it down, and it will recover within 1 to 2 weeks, under normal summer growing conditions. The limitation is climate, not durability. Clover performs best in temperate regions with consistent moisture and struggles in extended drought or extreme heat without irrigation. In those regions, it remains a spring and fall contributor rather than a year-round one, which is consistent with how most of the plants on this list divide the calendar between them rather than each covering all 12 months alone. The 3 mistakes that cause problems. Every plant on this list is safe and well documented as poultry forage. That does not mean every weed in a yard qualifies, and the mistakes that cause problems are predictable enough to name directly. The first mistake is harvesting from treated ground. Lawns sprayed with herbicide or pesticide, roadside ditches exposed to runoff, or any area within drift range of a neighbor's spray schedule. None of the nutritional value of these plants offsets that risk, and there is no way to wash it off reliably. The second mistake is confident misidentification, most often with lamb's quarters and pokeweed sharing growing space, or with any unfamiliar weed assumed safe because it resembles something on this list. A flock does not need every weed identified. It needs the 7 here identified correctly, with anything uncertain left unharvested until it can be confirmed. The third mistake applies specifically to nettle, skipping gloves, or feeding it fresh and unwilted, and assuming the birds will simply eat around the sting. They will not eat it at all in that state, and the harvest goes to waste. The general rule that solves most of this: introduce any new plant to the flock in small quantities first, watch for any reaction over a day or two, and only then make it a regular part of the rotation. That single habit catches almost every problem before it becomes one. The foraging system. None of these 7 plants require a planting plan. What they require is a harvesting routine that lets the flock access them without stripping any single patch bare. The simplest version: rotate the flock's run, or paddock the same way a pasture rotation works elsewhere in this catalog, giving each patch of lawn, garden margin, or field edge a rest period after grazing, rather than continuous access. Purslane, lamb's quarters, and clover all recover faster under rotation than under constant pressure, and chickweed in particular will die out under non-stop foraging during its short cool season window. For nettle specifically, a fenced or otherwise inaccessible patch works better than open access. Harvest it by hand with gloves, wilt or dry it, and feed it as a chopped supplement rather than letting the flock free range directly into a stinging patch they cannot navigate around. For the remaining 5, a flock with even modest range access will find and eat all of them without any encouragement, and the only ongoing task is making sure garden beds, field edges, and lawn margins are left unsprayed and at least partially unmowed long enough for each plant to reach a harvestable size. The full math. None of these 7 plants carries a meaningful cost. There is no seed to buy, no irrigation beyond what rainfall already provides in most regions, and no fertilizer. Several of them, clover in particular, add nitrogen to the soil rather than taking it. The only realistic cost is labor, and even that is modest. Nettle harvesting and drying takes the most time of the 7, roughly 15 to 20 minutes per cutting for a small patch. The other 6 require essentially no labor beyond allowing flock access, since the birds do their own harvesting. For a backyard flock supplementing rather than fully replacing purchased feed, a yard with reasonable coverage of these 7 plants can realistically offset 10 to 20% of total feed cost across the growing season. Modest on its own, but stacked on top of the BSFL, fodder, and duckweed systems covered elsewhere in this catalog, it closes a meaningful piece of the gap between purchased feed and a system that feeds itself. The honest limit: this is a supplement, not a standalone feed program. 7 weeds, however nutritious, do not replace a balanced ration on their own, particularly for a flock with no other forage layers in place. They work best as one part of a wider system, free, available, and already growing, whether anyone uses them or not.